So we're about a month and a half away from the opening games and the start of this new Unrivaled league. It's a women's basketball league consisting of professional women's basketball players. It's going to have a three players versus three players format. It's going to be on a shortened court. Each team's only going to have three players on the court at a time. It's going to be different. It's going to be very different from what you're seeing. And there's been a lot of talk about it, obviously, with the sudden surge in interest in women's basketball. Now, this league was founded by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart back in either June or July of 2023. Now, at the time, they probably couldn't have seen what was going to wind up becoming probably their biggest issue. Was going to be still be such an issue at the time. At that time, it was the summer between women's college basketball seasons. Caitlin Clark had just made a crazy run to the finals, lost the famous game to LSU. Angel Reese, the team's fourth leading scorer, taunted her afterwards and pretty much lit a fire for a lot of people caring about women's college basketball in a way they never had before. Enter the 2023 WNBA season that did not follow over to the WNBA at all. Caitlin played her senior year at Iowa, despite what Cheryl Swoops will tell you. This is not her fifth year, and she's still not 25 years old. She's still only 22. She's still more than a month away from turning 23. But that's another story for another day. I'm sure they had no idea that she would still, not only would she still be as much of a supernova as far as popularity, so much of a phenom that the world of sports has just not seen on a natural level in a long, long, long time. I don't think they could have seen just how much she was going to continue to grow to the point where she actually made the WNBA relevant. She actually made professional women's basketball relevant to the mainstream audience for the first time in a long time. I'm not saying that to knock the women's professional basketball, but they've just not really been accepted in the way that in the way their male counterparts have for a long time. The game of basketball is a game that is basically created and tailor made for the physical advantages that men have: running, jumping, athleticism, and all that. The physical advantages women have, just don't really actually make it tougher for them to play basketball. And that's just biology. I'm not trying to knock them. Women are the fairer sex, in my opinion. They're more important than us, quite honestly, because they are very much valuable in nurturing life. But like I said, that's kind of neither here nor there. So come this summer 2024, or really even into the fall, the 2024 NCAA women's basketball season ended. Caitlin Clark made it back to the finals and unfortunately lost once again to a juggernaut. Played her heart out, but I mean, it's just the team she beat the previous year, she lost to in 2024, and the team that beat her in 2023, she beat in 2024. So she beat Gino, she beat Kim Mulkey, she beat Dawn Staley. She just couldn't beat them all in the same year. And yes, I know that's kind of the point, but you have to give her flowers. She broke all the records and just made herself even more of a household name. And to the point that when she went to the WNBA, a league that has not turned a profit and not been given any serious recognition in 27 years, suddenly it's got to be the most talked about league this whole year, other than obviously the NFL. But the NFL is such a built-in, it's so built into the just American sports watchers' way of life. Whereas the WNBA was nowhere. Um, but they probably couldn't have foreseen that, and so thus when it became announced that they're going to have their teams, the question became pretty simple as to whether or not this league was going to be any type of success or not. Is Caitlin Clark going to play in this league, or is she not going to play? Obviously, choosing to have antagonists, famous antagonists, people who are very much made a name for themselves, antagonizing her, like Dejanay Carrington and Angel Reese, was not going to help her get there. Um, it was, I don't think she ever really seriously considered it. Between the going straight from her senior year of college into a whole season of the WNBA, and probably just wanting to get away from the circus aspect of it and try to, just live a normal life, go to Swig and get her Golden Stanley, which got millions of views, going to play in the WNBA or the LPGA, getting to play in the Pro-Am. She loves golf. She just wanted to play a little golf and play in the Pro-Am. The circus followed her. They televised it, and like I said, the LPGA welcomed her with open arms. And now she wants to sport a boyfriend who's on the coaching staff of Butler University men's team, who I'll never ever forgive for not hitting that mid-court shot that would have prevented Duke from winning the 2010 men's national championship with Brad Stevens as the coach. That still hurts my Tar Heel heart. They missed their 3-point shot to win it. A few years later, Villanova against my Tar Heels would hit their 3-point shot, and my heart is still broken on both of those accounts. So, I'm not going to lie about that. But, yeah, back to Unrivaled. So, that pretty much became the only talking point. So, as it became pretty obvious she either wasn't going to play or didn't seem really all that interested, but there's been a lot of things said about Unrivaled. That's been clumsily marketed, which it has. Clumsily put together. I don't understand this whole pod system and the coaches getting together trying to create the most exciting teams and then being randomly assigned a team. To me, you have a lottery. You have them pick their own players. You have 1 through 6, and in the second round you invert that. Whoever picks 6 goes and picks first, and over again for the 6 rounds, because it's 6 teams with 6 players. And so to me, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that one at all. To me, you kind of have to stick with the basics. This is a league that was supposed to be, or not supposed to be, but it is, founded by women's basketball players for women's basketball players. So they wouldn't have to go overseas, and they would have the chance to market themselves, make better salaries than even the WNBA can offer. And this is going to be their vehicle. And quite honestly, this is going to be something they could probably use for leverage. Compared to the pre-Caitlin Clark WNBA days, even if it was what we think it's going to be, which is not very well watched and not very well received, it still was probably going to be better watched and better received than the WNBA, because at least it's something new. But yeah, Caitlin Clark came along and just threw a huge wrench into that. She's, like I said, she's busy, trying to live a normal life, like I said. And like I said, she's trying to just kind of, go to Butler games, support her boyfriend. She's got her light blue shirt on, which I love to see. I wish it said Tar Heels instead of Butler. I don't have anything against Butler, but I love the Tar Heels. But just footage of her clapping and, pulling for Butler, that's getting millions of views. I mean, it's just, she can't get away from it. I swear she could, if somebody could get footage of her just standing on the street corner eating a hot dog, it'd probably get who knows how many views. So, but and obviously, like I said, so there's a lot that's being said about Unrivaled, and of course the biggest one is DOA. Everybody says this thing's dead on arrival. Nobody's going to care about it to start with, despite the laundry list of investors having a TV partner off the bat in TNT, which is huge. I mean, that's huge for allowing them to have success if they have anything worth offering. So like I said, its success remains to be seen. But one thing that's a few people have said that is not true is that it's irrelevant. Now, it might be irrelevant as far as your viewing, as far as, I know for me it's going to be irrelevant as far as my viewing. I'm not going to watch it. And quite honestly, at this point, even if Caitlin Clark takes one of the wild card spots, to this point, I don't really want to watch her play 3-on-3. I just want to see her play for the Fever and, begin her championship journey. I don't know how long that'll take. Will it take 7 years like it did to Michael Jordan, which was, something to watch. I didn't get to watch all of it because he was drafted when I was 3 months old. But, I never remember. I remember watching when he won that first championship. I was 7 in '91 and watching him hold that trophy and crying. It was amazing. And, we want to see how it's going to look for Caitlin, especially with the fact that, she's come so close in college and done so many things in college and never could get that final step. Every year she never could beat whoever the final boss was. She could beat them if they weren't the final boss, but, so that remains to be seen. But, So yeah, it might be irrelevant, but the fact is how this league does and the magnitude of success or failure is going to play a huge part in the future of women's professional basketball, specifically the WNBA. They've just opted out of their CBA for the not this season, but the upcoming season. Um, and the biggest thing they need to realize is whatever happens with Unrivaled is going to be brought to the bargaining table or brought up at the bargaining table when these players are trying to get a larger salary, which Caitlin Clark deserves a much larger salary. Nobody else does in that league. I'm just going to say it like it is. Maybe some of her teammates that have embraced her, like Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull. I hope they keep Erica Wheeler. If they keep Melissa Smith, I'll still pull for them. But man, I don't want to see her on the Fever next year. That's an aside, but um, they can't just pay one player all this money, even though she's responsible for over a quarter of the league's revenue. They can't have her, getting a quarter of all the salary out there because these CBAs, everybody else will go crazy. But this is something that's going to be brought up. If this league is unsuccessful, if this league flounders, if TNT decides to drop them before the season's even over, which I don't know if they can do or not, I don't know if it's in their contract or not, but I mean if they're drawing 100, 150,000 viewers a game, when they come to say, hey, we need more money, we need more marketing, they'll be like, well, wait a minute, what about your league that you created, that you guys created? You created this for yourselves. You said you could do it better. This just shows that you can't do it better. So you can either stick with us, go on strike, and end everybody's career, basically end women's professional basketball as we know it, and unless Caitlin Clark goes to a new league, at which point it'll be quite relevant. And by quite relevant, I mean whatever team Caitlin Clark's on will be quite relevant. And if they defy expectations and it's a success, well then they can demand a lot more. And they might have to give in a lot, or the WNBA and the NBA, whoever, I don't know who's going to be at the bargaining table because the NBA pays all their losses. You'd think they deserve a spot at the table, but they're just going to pay their losses no matter what. So I don't know if they're going to be there or not. But you kind of have to wonder if they do this and they pull it off and it does well and it makes money, and they're able to say, look, you guys have screwed us. They can pull the you screwed us for 27 years by not marketing us right or not paying us right, even though we all know the NBA has done more than their fair share, but that's another story for another day. But they can pull that because they can say, look, we can do it better than you, and they can demand a lot more. So this is very important. How this league succeeds or how this league fails, or anything in between, is going to determine a lot about women's professional basketball going forward. Because, like I said, they're at a very interesting crossroads. There's a lot of interest in the league, but pretty much all that interest revolves around one player. Very, very few people are, paying attention to really anything else. The Seattle Storm, who's won 4 championships, I think, in the last 15 years, or I don't know how many. They're kind of like the Lynx. They've got 4 championships, which is the most of any team, any active team, along with the Lynx, and I think the Houston Comets with Cheryl Swoops playing second fiddle to Cynthia Cooper. They won the first 4, but that was the league's infancy, and but even them, one of the most successful and one of the more well-attended teams comparatively. I guess Indiana's coming to Seattle 3 times next year. And to market that, do they have Skylar Diggins-Smith? Do they have Noelle Quinn, the coach that the whole league loves? Do they have Neke Umungale? I know I mispronounced her name, and I apologize again. President of the Players Association. All these 3 very well-respected players within the WNBA. No, they have Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark only. They put a picture of Caitlin Clark on there to advertise for those games. Not a Seattle Storm player to be seen. So I think the league's starting to realize that too, and I think the players are kind of having to realize that they're having to back off a little bit. Even so the schedule's been released. There's hype videos, even those hype videos, there's kind of like, fun shots being taken at the Fever for once, instead of y'all are racist and bigoted and all that. Like the Land of Dream, who's co-owner Renee Montgomery, who's about as useless as it gets. Um, they made a joke about they made quite the joke about all the Fever fans being bandwagon fans. Well, here's the thing, though: we're not bandwagon fans. We're been supporting Caitlin Clark, and we're following her. Does that make us a bandwagon fan, or is the Fever bandwagoning off of us? But like I said, at the end of the day, it's kind of in fun. So I think the league's starting to come around a little bit. I think they realize, D Day, or B Day, I should say. I go a lot of places with that, but bargaining day is coming, and at the end of the day, they have one way and one way only of getting any kind of leverage or a really good bargaining agreement. That's through Caitlin Clark. So people like Dejanay Carrington, Angel Reese, and all these people who've had bad things to say, even Renee Montgomery, uh, I envision them keeping their pie holes shut and sitting back and letting Caitlin make them money, which sucks because I hate to see the fact that their profits increase. The fact that Renee Montgomery sat there silent while Caitlin Clark took them out of their 3,300 seat arena to the State Farm Arena where the Atlanta Hawks play, sold out the 17,000 plus seats both times, and she raked in the money, and then she had some bad things to say. It's like we see what's going on. We're not stupid, and Unrivaled is going to play a big role in this. If they flop hard, it's going to be a much tougher go of it, and something's going to be brought up for sure. My expectations for the league, I know people say DOA. I would not be surprised if their first couple of weeks actually have surprisingly good ratings. Like I said, there's been a lot of talk about it. It's something new. I think a lot of people probably want to look at it and see what's going on. I am not one of them, but there are quite a few. So, don't be surprised if it starts off good, but it's how it ends. And plus, as it goes on, it's got to compete with the heart of the NFL playoffs, and even that dead period afterwards. I personally think that's when it's really gonna get ugly and fall off, and if that's the case, that's actually probably the worst case scenario. It's like, okay, you got people's attention, and they didn't want to stay tuned in even after the NFL season ended, after the Super Bowl was over. So this league matters a lot. How it does matters a lot. Does it matter to a lot of us that have the option to watch it or not? No. I mean, for me, that doesn't matter at all. But if you're interested in women's professional basketball, just keep an eye on its success or failure, because that's going to determine a lot about the future of women's professional basketball. Thank you guys as always for tuning into these videos, and talk to you later.